Micah Popp. Welcome to Behind the Mic with Micah Popp. I am your host of this wonderful show. I've got a lot of things to cover today. I'm excited. First off, after posting yesterday's episode, my grandma, well, I visited her, and I was like, hey, Grandma, what'd you think? And she's like, oh, I have lots of critiques. I was like, oh boy, here we go. So, I've got her critiques today, and she said that the first thing, I shouldn't say, so I've been trying to not say, as much, which I think is very important. And she said to tighten things up and to write everything down that I'm going to talk about. So, that's what I did. I have got a full list of what I'm going to talk about today, and it is full. So, this is exciting. You know, we're going to have lots of fun together. So first off, yeah, today I go back to work. Yay! I am excited. You know, I had a nightmare last night about everything going wrong at work. I was like, no, this isn't how it's supposed to be. So I woke up to that, and I was like, ugh. But I know it's going to be good. I know it's going to go well. So I'm excited to get back and say hi to everybody. So that is the good thing. Let's go ahead and get started with today's moral message for all of you friends out there. So today's verse of the day, we're going to start and I actually have two today, and I think they both kind of work hand in hand. So it starts out with Proverbs 29:11 in the New King James Version. And it says, a fool vents all his feelings, but a wise man holds them back. And I was reading this morning, and I came across that, and it was like, it really stuck out to me. I don't know why, I just enjoyed it. I just really thought that was profound. So I wrote it down, and so I also found another one in James. I said, I gotta stop saying that. In James 1:19 in the NIV says something very similar. It says, dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. So I think that's the topic, the moral topic I want to talk about today is having composure. You know, there's a lot of things in life that can take you out of your composure, that can really rattle you, as they would say at work. And I think it's so important to, no matter what we're facing, to always be headstrong and to don't go with your initial reaction. I heard one time saying by, I think it was Pastor Jerry Savelle, Brother Jerry. Brother Jerry said that your first words set the tone of where you're going to head in a situation. And I think that's very, very important because, you know, we've talked about confessions on here. We've talked about being positive with what the things we say. And so I think the first words that you say in a situation really kind of can set the tone mentally for a lot of people. And yeah, I believe that you can kind of retrace your steps if you've said the wrong things, and you can kind of pull them back and like, no, that's not what I meant. But a great example is maybe you got like a medical bill in the mail or something, or you got a bad news letter or something. And the first thing you want to do is just rile your flesh up and just bristle up and just get afraid or get angry or anything like that. Anything that wouldn't be a good reaction. And a lot of times it is fear. A lot of times, you know, especially if it is medical bills or if it is a really scary situation that you're facing, the first thing to do is to panic. And I think that these verses really kind of show that, you know, it's so important that you be careful with the way you handle your emotions, and that you keep your temperature. Keep your, not your temperature, you know what I'm trying to say. Keep temperate and keep your composure, stay cool, calm, and collected. And I think that's, you know, it's important with every situation too. Not even sometimes in social things. Social situations, you also need to do that. Sometimes somebody does you wrong. Somebody steps on your foot. Somebody calls you a nasty name or whatever, something like that. And, you know, it's so important to not let that get under your skin and let that just breathe in, breathe out. Because, you know, when we lose our composure, then a lot of times we can lose the battle right there. When we snap at somebody, when we retaliate, or if we just burst out in any kind of emotion, we can really lose a lot of footing on what we need to do. So that's, keeping it short for that today, because I have some other things I'm going to talk about. But I just thought that was important to share. That's what the Lord laid in my heart. Just to, keeping your composure is important. So the voice acting topic of the day, because I wanted to hit both the spiritual and the practical for the voice now. So today I want to talk about vocal warm-ups, and all about vocal warm-ups, what they are, why they're important, what I do, what you could do, and how they improve your craft. So first off, what are vocal warm-ups? For those of you who don't know, who've never been into singing, acting, voice acting, or anything like that, or orating or anything, vocal warm-ups are basically like stretching out your vocal cords like you would before a run. Basically, you are just like you would stretch out your hamstrings, your legs, your arms, your back. You're stretching out your voice in every different capacity that you can, so that you can, warm up. It's a vocal warm-up. And I think I wrote down a couple of points about why they're important. I think one of the biggest important points, other than stretching out your voice, is to minimize the damage. A lot of people, especially those who speak for a living, can really damage their vocal cords if they don't properly take care of them. That includes drinking water. Drinking water is probably the biggest part, and that's one of my biggest things I will probably talk about as I do this show. I drank so much water this morning before I got in the booth. But minimizing the damage is important, because you can strain your voice. If you use it too much without proper care, you can really hurt yourself. And then some people have blown out their voices and can't use it the same way ever again. And it's sad, because when you build your life on that, and it can devastate you. But it's the same thing like if you're running, like if you pull a hamstring, or in worst case scenario you hurt your Achilles tendon or anything. I mean, there's a whole number of things. I don't know all the examples, because I'm not into fitness as much as my friends are, but it's very similar idea, that you want to keep damage to a minimum by keeping yourself loose and warm. And I think the other thing about vocal warmers too is that it really helps you to reach your maximum potential when you're warming up. This is another reason why it's important. Let's say, like, if you're singing, my mom's talked about it. My mom is also a singer. That when she warms up, that she sometimes realizes she hits higher notes than she normally can. And I think you can kind of tell, like, if you do singing your own self or anything like that, that when you start to sing, sometimes you kind of crack a little bit when you get up really high or low notes. But when you do your warm-ups, then you can really reach for it. And so what are vocal warm-ups, and how do you do them? So some of the ones that I use, I know there's tons of them out there. And this is just the routine that I've developed that I got from college, actually. I was a theater major in college, and before every show, before every practice, before every class, actually, we would practice our vocal warm-ups. And, some of them are a little embarrassing. I'll get to that in a second, but it's important to not be concerned about what other people think. And I think that applies to all the arts in general. You have to really be confident with yourself to do these things, because they can be embarrassing. The first one is scales. La 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 la. Scales are so important. That's what I was referring to when you try to reach those new heights. So how it works is you obviously la 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 la, and then after you do that, you go one more step up, la 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 la, and you do that as high as you possibly can until it's la 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 la. I didn't properly warm that one up, so that one came out pretty bad. But you go high and then you go low, and I think the scales are probably the most well-known vocal warm-up out there. But some other ones, tongue twisters. Now, many of you probably know a lot of your tongue twisters from when you were children and you were on the playground saying tongue twisters because they're fun to say. But tongue twisters are actually a really great vocal warm-up to help with your diction. Now, like I said, there's a ton of them out there. Every language has them. I've actually watched anime, and they have Japanese tongue twisters, which it makes sense that they would have those, but I never thought about it until hearing it, and it's really funny. Eventually, I'd like to learn some of those, but I have some English standard ones for you today. So the first one that I always start with is red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. It doesn't sound like it'd be that difficult, but when you try to do it, it's harder to get out than it sounds. But what you're saying, if you couldn't catch it, is red leather, yellow leather. So you say that a lot, and it really kind of gets the sounds out, and it helps you to pronounce those easier. Another one I like to do is rubber baby buggy bumpers. So it's rubber baby buggy bumpers, rubber baby buggy bumpers, rubber baby buggy bumpers. And that really kind of trains the B's and the R's and the ba, which those can be hard to get out too. I mean, honestly, these are all hard. Now, my personal favorite one is one that I've practiced so much, and it's kind of it's quote unquote the hardest one out there, but I'm kind of skeptical about that, but maybe that's because I've practiced it so much. Let me know what you think. But that is Unique New York. So when you say that, sometimes it comes out Unique New York or New Yeek New York, and it kind of mixes you up, but it's Unique New York, Unique New York, Unique New York, Unique New York. And I feel like that one's easy for me because I saw that it was the hardest one. I took it upon myself to practice it as much as I could just to show off. So I don't think it's really as hard as people say it is. But what do you think? Tell me in the comments what you think. What the hardest tongue twister? And give me some of your own tongue twisters that there is. Okay, so this workout is one of my favorite. It is the most embarrassing workout voice warm up you can do, and it's called the Yawn sigh. Now I know most people have never heard of this. Because this is one that I've never heard of until I went to college for acting. But basically what it is, I'll tell you what it is before I do it, and I might peek the mic doing it, so I might take a couple steps back and do it outside of my booth to give the idea. But basically what you're going to do is you hit the top of your register as high as you can, and then you lower it down to the lowest register, and it really kind of opens up the pathways. But let me show you what it sounds like. Give me a second to get a drink of water as I step out of my booth for a second, because it's going to get loud. So, the yawn sigh. Oh! You like that? Pretty embarrassing, huh? Imagine doing that in a big crowd of people and they're all doing the same thing. It's a sight to see, I'll tell you what. So that's a yawn sigh. And it's such a weird process, and you should do it a couple times. And there's a trick. I know you can't see it, but you start with your hand kind of at your neck, and then you kind of pull it up like you're throwing your voice, and then you lower it down, kind of lowering it down the whole way. And it's kind of, it's an exercise. Not every exercise is socially acceptable, I guess. But it feels good. It's fun to do. And it really does open up your pathways to expand your range. So those are some fun vocal warm-ups to do. And some other things that aren't really warm-ups, but I use them to warm up, too, is obviously kind of, rehearsing the lines I go over. Now, obviously, I do this whenever I have lines to go over, which that was yesterday for me when I was kind of really putting out more voices. I like to read the line that I have, and I like to just rehearse it. Just as many times as I can say it, just rehearse, which that's probably a second nature idea. But, it's one of those things that it's like you know it, but then once you do it, then you know it. And I kind of recently have rediscovered the art of, saying things over and over and over again as a rehearsal. And I think a great example, I wrote down a line. I just made up a line real fast. And I thought it'd be fun to kind of show you what I do with it. So the line is, I want to see the man who shot my dog. Now, I kind of wrote that kind of with like a cowboy in mind. And so how I'd rehearse that is like, I see that, and let's say that the prompt needed it to be a cowboy. So the first thing I'd go, I want to see the man who shot my dog. And I would say that, I'd say that a couple times. I want to see the man who shot my dog. But the thing is about rehearsal too, especially when you're by yourself and you're practicing, is you play around with the line. Don't just say it how's the first way it comes out. Don't just stick with that. Try different voices. Try different intonations with it. Like, I want to see the man who shot my dog. Or, I want to see the man who shot my dog. Which, it's one of those things is you play with it. You enjoy the process. It's kind of like when you're playing with clay. You smush it. You remake it. It doesn't look quite right. You smush it again. You make it this way. And you really just play around with the line. And sometimes you do goofy. I love to do goofy voices with my lines. Like, I want to see the man who shot my dog. And even those, all the examples I just gave, I just realized were the same intonations. It's fun. It's funny how it's sometimes hard to break out of those pathways that we set up in our head. So just going over that, and the key to all of this, the key to vocal warm-ups, the key to practicing is, one, it's routine. Getting down to the nitty-gritty and just doing it, and having a setup where every morning you get up and you practice and you warm up, and then you just throw yourself into it. And I think that's just like working out the body. You just have to keep at it, because you're only gonna, I talked about this a couple episodes ago, you're only gonna get better by practice. So that's what I've got. I hope that was nice and condensed and nice and concise for you. Probably not, but that's okay. I love you anyway. So I want to get to, before I end, I want to get to confessions. Yesterday's confession, I finally started writing the confessions down and not trying to go off my memory. So let me pull it out. Also, happy April Fool's to everybody who is listening on April Fool's Day, because today is April 1st. And this will be my last episode. April Fools! I know, okay, that was really lame, but I had to throw in an April Fool's joke somewhere. Alright, so yesterday's confession for me was, Lord, I am standing firm in your protection. 1,000 may fall at my side and 10,000 at my right hand, but it will not come nigh me. And that applies to corona and every other disease. So that was yesterday's. What was your yesterday's confession? Bring out your booklet, write down what you do every day, and find yesterday's. And if you haven't written it down, then just try to remember what it was. Maybe pause the video and kind of think back to yourself. What was yesterday's confession? And just confess it once again over yourself. And, go back to all the other ones that we've done so far. I'm still writing all the ones down from the previous episodes, so I'll have a booklet pretty soon. But I wrote down today's confession before the show instead of trying to come up with it during the show. And I think that, this is a very generic confession for me, but I think it's still very important to say. Riding on the coattails of the keeping your composure from the first part of the show, today's confession for me is, I am at peace with all things and thankful for where I am in life. And I think that's just a great confession. I think that putting it out there is like, that's so all-encompassing, that I am at peace, and that everything comes my way, I am peaceful with those things. So what's your confession? Maybe you want to confess the same thing. Maybe you have a different confession, something you're going through that you want to just confess a positive confession over. Just, especially with the situations that we get ourselves into or come our way just haphazardly. Any situation you're in, just think about where you are and what the confession that you need to be speaking today is. And just say it. And just say it all day long. So that's what that was my episode for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm hopefully going to be ending my podcast with another song, or maybe the first song. I'm going to be working with music more. I'd like to put more music into the show. So let me know what you guys think about that too. So I love you guys. You guys have a blessed, profitable day. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye!